This is something I've been working on for a lifetime. At this point in my life, I'm 69 years old. I've had years and years, oh my God, more years than you can even imagine, of experience in business. All the way from starting as a call center agent way back in the 70s to being a CEO and president as I am today. So, being the guy that I am, I started writing a book because I figured, okay, well, maybe someday someone will see this somewhere, pick it up, it'll plant a seed for them, and they'll get some of the lessons that I've worked hard to learn. So with that, the book is called Lessons I've Learned in No Particular Order. I did grab onto a couple mentors, and all unbeknownst to them, those are the people that I learned with. So let me share with you some of the lessons I've learned in no particular order. Hey, everybody. It's October 28th. This is the 14th time that we're meeting. And depending on your generation, I guess, you'll either like that I'm doing this or you won't like that I'm doing this. So listen, today's to me, this is a really interesting topic. And it's the way I go about my business. I'm not so sure it's a lesson I've learned versus a behavior that I have in terms of what do you do when you have a multi-generational team. And by the way, that would probably include still baby boomers like myself. I'm working X, Generation Y, Generation Z. And by the way, right now being born is Alpha generation. So there's a whole bunch of generations. So look at the case of Noble Biz. We have really all these generations working for us. No, we don't have Alpha yet, but we certainly have parents of Alpha. We also have people all over the world within these generations working. So we actually have employees in Nicaragua and Guatemala, in other countries in LATAM, in Africa, African countries, Morocco as an example, Europe, Western Europe and Eastern Europe, and frankly, all over the world. So what in the world do we do when we have a bunch of different generations combined with a bunch of different cultures that within their own culture are going through different generational outcomes and expectations and behaviors? So, I mean, what do you do about it? You know, I was just looking before we started here, and I wanted to just read a little bit of what I was looking at. Okay, so this says that Generation Y are known as digital natives. And that means that technology is a part of their everyday lives. All of their activities are mediated by screen. They don't have a concept of on and off. Everything is integrated into their lives. And that's them. But what is Z? Z is the post-millennial generation, and they are taking the lead for the next few decades, and they're called centennials. And that's 1995 to 2010. And it's a group of people marked by the internet. It's part of their DNA. The internet storms into their homes, their education, and their way of socializing. So if Y had difficulty finding a job, post-millennials have a higher difficulty. Because what happens when you're looking for a job on the internet, you're certainly expanding your universe of jobs, but you're also expanding the workforce that you're competing against. So everything has its different characteristics. So what do I do in building an organization and addressing this idea of all of these differences in people? And listen, I've been facing new generations for decades and decades and decades. So I actually spoke at a conference when millennials were the driving force of concern, let's say, for businesses, and how do you relate to them? And I'm going to tell you what I said at that meeting, and it's really the same thing that I think I'll say to you or think today. And that is that within an organization, you must build your culture. And your culture has to have common themes that really transcend any generation. So, as an example, at NobleBiz, our core value is that we make promises that we meet, and that's it. Everything resonates around that. Now, it's irrefutable that a promise is something that any generation understands, I believe, and keeping that promise is something that most generations, I think, agree on. It's also the same thing in terms of different cultures around the world within those generations that are working here. So maybe what we've done to accommodate these differences is, rather than expanding upon our core value and talking about a whole bunch of information that goes into it, and in a sense digressing to the minutia, we simplify the message and we simply say, this is what we believe in. This simple thing is what we believe in. Will there be discussions about that? So what does a promise mean to me? What is the definition of that? And what is the definition of completion and meeting a promise? Certainly, you're going to have discussion about that. And as a business, it's up to you to not be offended that other people may have differences in terms of how they interpret that core value. And then you have to explain yourself, but you have to explain yourself. And the question becomes, do we as a management group cede to the way our workforce thinks, or does the workforce cede to the way we think? But the truth is, even within our management team, we have different generations and different cultures. So I can get overwhelmed with the differences. So what do I do when I'm overwhelmed with the differences? Is I simplify. I take the straightest line I can, and the straightest line is always to control what I can control. Now, I can come up with an approach to how we run our business and a vision for our business and an idea of how to get there. And in earlier lessons, I've talked about the back pocket plan that you have in case no one else comes up with an idea. But at the same time, I need to ask my workforce, what would your strategy be the way you see the market within your context? And ask those questions. I'll give you an example. Last week, every month we do a company meeting. And last week I explained to the company what transparency means. And here's what it was, is that one of the things that I've heard from our workforce is they appreciate the transparency that we've created in our company. But really, I could get to the level of saying, well, what is transparency by generation or by culture? But no, I didn't break it down to that level. But I did say, everybody, there's a project here. Come back to me and tell me individually, write to me, and take the time to write what your day in your life is like. Tell me how your day works, and as detailed as you can. Then tell me what you believe transparency means. And tell me what you believe we could do to improve our lot. Now, here's what I get as an outcome. First of all, by the way, it was the most impactful thing I think I've ever done in decades and decades and decades, because the input I got and the output from our staff was so deep, and every employee cared deeply about what they do. Every employee, no matter what their generation was, defined how they went about their day. And in reading that and taking the time in my management position to read and understand it, I could see what the common themes were. What does a common day mean to an individual? How is transparency defined differently? And then simplifying it, where is the common line through it, the arrow through it, that I can use to be able to to construct the messages that I want our company to be driven by, but in the context of how the staff goes about their business. Now, look, in the 50s and 60s, nobody was asking their employees to tell them anything. I can remember times when I was growing up, and even in management positions, although maybe mid-level management positions, I didn't know why I was being asked to do something, nor did I have a feeling I could even ask why I was being told to do something. I was driven by the idea that my job was to implement what I was being asked, simply implement, be my driver of my group in terms of what I am being asked to do. That was it. And then it began to change, certainly, as openness began in business, and these cultural and environmental and social shifts and technological shifts certainly created more conversation and more information. But what's at the bottom of it are human beings. And we all, as I learned from reading the impact on the project that I just discussed with you, we all are driven by the feeling of being a participant, by the recognition that we have a mission, and that when we come to work, there's a baseline, and it's that I need to earn a living. And I need to earn that living in the context of doing it every day and every month and every year. So I can't simply, as an employee from a different generation than my leader or executive team, I can't simply choose my way without making some accommodation also for who I'm working for, their approach and generation. But frankly, to me, what really matters is this. It matters how the speak matters. So I believe that in nature, we're all very, very similar. We want certain areas of success and compassion and love and interest, and we're driven, in those very basic emotions that have been there for hundreds and thousands and millennia. But at the same time, how we speak about it has to be able to resonate, because if I'm just talking right now and here, and only one generation, baby boomers, understands what I'm saying, then I have failed, because I have to own the outcome that when I say something, I have to say it in a way that everyone understands what I'm saying. And to do that, I have to listen. I don't have to change my theories of business. I don't have to change that we want to be successful in certain core values and that we want to make a certain amount of money. I don't have to change those things. But what I do have to change is my speak and my ears and how I listen. And through that commonality, I can go anywhere in the world with any generation. And as long as I'm listening, and as long as I'm taking my audience seriously, which requires me to ask questions and listen to the answers, and then I learn how to speak in the tone and the common terms that work across the board to everyone. I'll leave you with something that happened to me in a past life. So we, as a business in this technology business I'm going to refer to, we had a great success in North America. And as we began to expand our business globally into different markets, we felt like how we presented our product was going to be the same. We knew how to do it. We were successful in the North American market. Every single region I went to, and we started by going to the UK, and then the Philippines, and then India, and then Mexico, and then Brazil, and other areas where we opened markets and opened offices with different generations of employees and different cultures around them, selling the same technology And we thought we knew how to do it because we had done it successfully in North America. And we're selling to call centers, by the way. And after all, a call center is a call center, right? It should be the same everywhere. Well, yes, the tech was the same. So we went into these markets, and there was not a single market that we did not fail before we learned how to be successful. We went in the markets thinking we knew how to speak to that audience, and we came out saying, wait a minute, maybe we don't know how to speak to that audience, but who would know how to speak to that audience? Well, people of a similar generation, people of a similar culture. And so we began to cede control of how we messaged that market differently. We did it by hiring local management, partnering with local businesses, and let them form the message the way they saw fit. As we began to do that, every single market, everyone took off. Everyone. And everyone did not take off when we were driving the message with our singular thinking of how we did it here in North America. And I hope you get that there are lessons in that may be able to benefit you. Look, I do these meetings because I love organizational management. I love business, and I love working with people that maybe I can have a little hand in their development, so that their next generations of success are exponential. And I love to be a part of that. So my own passion is that if I've learned something, maybe I should share it with you. And maybe you will get something for it and from it that is of benefit. This is the 14th time this year I've talked to you. We're going to have one more in 3 weeks, I think it is. I'm traveling to Morocco and other areas over the next couple of weeks, so I'm going to miss the next one. And then after that, 15 will end the season, and we'll start again in January. So we're going to look to end this year with talking about the great resignation that we're hearing about and feeling. And what do we do about it? So with that, I'm going to let you go today. I hope I didn't take up too much of your time, but I do hope you got something from this. You take care. Bye-bye.